the Jewish hatred exists in the Quran. The Jews are mentioned by the name. There is no other religion that mention other religion by the name negatively and incite to kill Jews, except in the Islamic textbooks and most importantly in the Quran.
Why hasn't the rest of the world taken in Palestinian refugees? For example, Jordan isn't asking for them, Turkey isn't asking for them, Egypt isn't asking for them, and yet they share this common belief in Allah. And then at the same time, why haven't those same countries attacked Israel? Why haven't the Muslim nations come together to attack Israel? Is Hamas different than the rest of like Iran and Jordan? I guess I don't understand why they haven't taken in those people, but also why they haven't attacked.
Look, in 1948 and in 1967 and 1973, and the other massive campaigns from the Arab world, the Arab majority, the Muslim surrounding countries of Israel, tried everything within their ability to annihilate the state of Israel. Israel was completely outnumbered, and Israel continued to be outnumbered. Back in 1967, Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, Yemen, and many volunteers from every Muslim country, they came as pilgrims to do this sacred work of killing the Jewish people and throwing them into the Mediterranean Sea. The slogan at the time was not from the river to the sea, was actually saying, "Tagawa ya samak al-bahr," which means like starve, O fish of the sea, because they thought they are going to make the Jews into food of the sea creatures. This was their mentality and their intention, so they tried. Then Israel defended itself, and it was miraculous how Israel, extremely outnumbered, newborn state, were able actually to defeat all the Arab League united. After that, it was a great setback and depression for the Muslim and Arab world, that they knew that they could not annihilate Israel. And this is when the Palestinian movement was born, immediately after this failure. The first fight was between the Arab Muslims on one side against Israel. Then when the Arab armies failed, Yasser Arafat came to the picture, and it was the birth of the Palestinian liberation movement. So there was no such thing as Palestine prior to 1948, which is the establishment of the State of Israel. There was a British colonial entity called the British Mandate of Palestine. That was a colonial entity created by the British. And it lived only for 25 years. It was not an Arab state. It was not a Muslim country that had been occupied by the Jews. In fact, the Jewish people fought the British which led them to their independence. But the Arabs could not accept Jewish state on an Islamic land. And I think this is the most fundamental reason behind this conflict. If this was not considered an Islamic land, which all of us know that Islam was born thousands of years after Judaism, and we all know that the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem is built on the top of the Jewish temple, on the rubble. If you go beneath the mosque, you're going to see all the evidence, overwhelming evidence of the existence of the Jewish temple. But the Muslims say, no, this is our land, it's an Islamic land, and the Jews don't have the right to worship. And since the establishment of the State of Israel, for your information, Israel allowed the Muslims to worship freely, and they prevented the Jewish citizens of Israel to actually demonstrate the religious freedom to worship on Temple Mount, because they did not want the confrontation to continue with the Muslim world, giving up the most important religious site of the Jewish people in their capital only for the sake of peace. But this did not lead to peace, unfortunately, and the Muslims and the Arabs have been trying. So it's not only the Palestinians, what so-called Palestinians, which is, we need to ask ourselves, what is a Palestinian and what is Palestine? Those are the two most important questions. We will realize that it's not an ethnic group, it's not a religion, it's not a race, it's not a nationality. It's only a political, a violent ideology that has been used by the Russians, by the Iranians, by the Islamic Republic, by the Egyptians. After the failure in 1967, they invested billions of dollars in Yasser Arafat movement. And until today, Qatar, Egypt, the Islamic Republic in Iran, and other forces still invest in this Palestinian movement, investing billions of dollars to fund infrastructure, building tunnels, arming, giving them political cover. This is all complicity. They are all complicit in the crime. So instead of sending armies, now they have been recruiting the Arabs who live within Israel to cause an implosion. Instead of bringing the armies from outside, and they know they cannot win a war against a nuclear power, they thought it's better to invest the money in lone wolves or in small militias here and there. And whenever Israel eradicate one group, they go on investing in the other group by the name of Palestine, and the tragedy has been going for 70 years, and it could go for the next 100 years, because Israel as a superpower is going nowhere. And the best the Muslims and the Arabs can do is cause this chaos and turn the life of a totally developed country, a civilized society of diversity, of all religions, that includes Muslims, Arab, Jews, Christians, into a nightmare.
Okay, let me try to understand. So I live in Utah, where a large population are Christian Mormons that have large families, lots of children. Everywhere I go, there's children. I can't imagine any of them being willing to sacrifice their children, even though they believe in an afterlife, they believe in an all-powerful creator, God, Allah. But over there is the thinking that you're going to return to Allah anyway, so why not use your physical body to move forward the mission of taking back territory? Is that, I'm trying to understand why you would sacrifice your children, which I believe are your most precious thing, for this mission. That's where I guess my mind gets a little bit stuck.
Because it's a different culture. Even though many Palestinians are not religious people, they're not following the Islamic guidelines or practicing Muslims, they are still subconsciously conditioned by Islam. And Islam is not interested in this life. This is supposed to be, this entire life that we are living, supposed to be an illusion. And their goal is in the afterlife, not in this one. This is just, they are passing through, and they're supposed to do everything to be servants of Allah. Now, the foundations in the Quran that encourages the Muslims to die for Allah as a virtue, as a mean of worship, to kill the infidels, the disobedient humans who don't submit to the will of Allah, in this case, the God of Islam. The Muslims have the right to fight. They have the permission, and they are encouraged by their highest authority to fight the non-Muslims. And of course, today it's Palestine, it's occupation, it's an Islamic land, but tomorrow it's an Islamic invasion, which the history has all the evidence that the Muslims came out of the Arab Peninsula and they invaded huge parts of the world by the means of the sword, and they forced humanity into slavery or to become Muslim. They give people two options: to become Muslims or to become second-class citizens in the new Islamic territory. They stole all the intellectual property, the art, the books, the science. Then they put their names on it. And they claim that this is an Islamic ownership. Since then, crusades were born, and they countered the Islamic threat, the Islamic invasion of Europe, which led to the collapse of Andalusia, which was the Islamic empire in southern Spain. So, for example, you can take Andalusia. It's a very similar concept like Palestine. Muslims, according to Islamic law, believe that Andalusia, which is Spain, is an Islamic land. And Muslims are required to fight physically. And if they cannot fight physically, they must fight financially to reclaim this territory. So even though if America and the West give the Muslims Al-Aqsa Mosque and what's called Palestine, tomorrow they're going to come and say, but we want also Andalusia. It's an occupied territory. Then you give them Andalusia. They will come and they say every mosque everywhere in the world is an Islamic territory. Try to shut down a mosque, and then they will outrage, then they will turn violent. Then we have the same problem as Palestine, because Palestine is a concept. It's really not about the land from the Jordanian River to the Mediterranean Sea. It's actually any Islamic infrastructure as small as a tiny mosque in the United States. This is considered now a land and a property of Allah. Try to demolish a mosque, then see the Muslim reaction. We see them, even if some angry, ignorant person burn the Quran, you see what happens. Millions of the Muslims around the world turn violent against everybody. And you try to convince them that was just an idiot, does not represent all the people in the West. But they go on boycotting countries, states, governments, burning things. So from this behavior, we understand their subconscious. And we understand also the mob mentality, that now they go with the current, whatever that is empowering their identity. Even the non-practicing Muslims, they suddenly become fanatics for the cause. And the Palestinian problem we are living today is an example that shows you how the Muslims unify and take the side of evil, even though it's very clear that on October 7th, many innocent people were killed in their backyards, in their living rooms, and infants were kidnapped, elders, etc. But because they are Jewish, this has been justified by the Muslims. So, of course, I can go on, and the fact that Muhammad, in an accurate source, he says that the end times will not happen until the Muslims kill all the Jews wherever they find them, until the stone and the tree will scream out and say, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. So this level of delusion is very, very dangerous. And now for the people in the West who believe in all the values of the West, think that Palestine, giving them a Palestinian state, can solve this problem. They are delusional. They don't know the depth of this hatred. There are 2 billion people out there who want to annihilate a religious minority, a human race, only because of their belief. Well, this is not acceptable, and it contradicts all the values of the West, of democratic countries, of actually the West and the East. But because most people are not familiar with the Islamic ideology and they think that the jihadists, the terrorists, is just a matter of a small minority who misinterpreted the Islamic verses, this is not true. This is in the core Islamic belief that the Jewish hatred exists in the Quran. The Jews are mentioned by the name. There is no other religion that mention other religion by the name negatively and incite to kill Jews, except in the Islamic textbooks, and most importantly in the Quran. So basically, I personally say, many Muslims don't agree with this, but they still call themselves Muslims. Well, what makes you a Muslim if you are not? Do they think that they have higher authority than Allah? If Allah hates the Jews, how can we make the Muslims love the Jews? So this is the dilemma, and I hope that the Muslims at some point will wake up and realize that they are not Muslims. Realize that, first of all, they are humans, and they need to choose between a sick ideology or the future of humanity. Because if we keep going in this direction, we are heading towards a global war and could be total destruction for everybody, Muslims and non-Muslims.
Okay, so this isn't like bad blood that goes back to Abraham having Ishmael and Isaac. This is more, once the Quran comes out, they're told to go get these territories and then defend them with their life in Allah's name.
That's okay. Correct. All the jihad is a unique concept only to Islam. We witnessed crusaders, we witnessed Christian violence, but at the end of the day, it did not have the foundations in Christ's approach to life, which turned the other cheek, love thy enemy, etc. So their movement lived for a while, then it collapsed. But in the Islamic belief system, it's the opposite. And the more we be in denial of this truth, they will keep coming back. We will have 10 years of quiet. Then if there is no Hamas, it's going to be the Islamic Jihad. If there is no Islamic Jihad, it's going to be the Muslim Brotherhood or Al-Qaeda or the other Salafi jihadists. And they will just keep rising every now and then and terrify the rest of humanity, not realizing that all of us are children of God. All of us are just one family. And diversity is a great thing. It's power. It's part of the universal plan for all of us to be unique, individualized expressions of the divine. Even though some of us, we could be idiotic and delusional, but we don't act on it. And all of us could fall in the trap of hatred. I myself struggle with that. But will I carry a gun and say it's like I have the permission now to start shooting people I don't know because I'm not feeling good, or because life did not give me what I'm asking for? Well, this is not the way. This is the violence that would lead to a total destruction. And we say that people have the right to believe whatever they want, but non-violence is a fundamental that we cannot ignore.
Okay. Okay. You wrote on Twitter, human rights organizations have no credibility or legitimacy as long as they don't condemn Hamas for operating among civilians. The United Nations keeps pouring money into Palestine. The United States keeps pouring money into Palestine. But you're saying until they admit that Hamas using children and women as shields as part of their military plan, that they should get no money, and these groups have lost credibility?
Absolutely. What's so-called humanitarian organizations, they have been trying to delegitimize Israel, discredit Israel, accuse Israel of being a genocidal state, even though the truth on the ground is completely different. Israel is concerned of the Arab civilians in Gaza, the Gazans. Israel gave them a map to evacuate. Israel announced their operation even before they go into the ground. And this is going according to the protocol of war. So the humanitarian organizations have been selective. Instead of seeing that Israel is going through a very difficult war, one of the hardest wars of all time, at least in our modern history, where terrorists hijacked an entire society, booby-trapped mosques, schools, hospitals, crossed all the lines. They don't obey or follow any protocol. It's a very, very difficult war. What are we expecting from Israel after October 7 to suffer ethnic cleansing of 20 Jewish communities, then the next day to do what Hamas wanted from Israel, to send foot soldiers so they become vulnerable, and where Hamas is able to use Palestinians as human shields and kill thousands of Israeli foot soldiers. No modern army, the American army, will not agree to that. There is no democracy that would say we have been under attack and now we have to go send our police to fight a brutal enemy who's taking human shields, booby traps all over the place. Those soldiers have mothers, they have families, and Israel had no choice but to send armor vehicles, but to drop bombs on Hamas infrastructure. But before they did that, they asked the civilians to evacuate. We all see this, all this has a record of it. So how come humanitarian organizations don't give Israel credits? Any other country would have wiped out the Gaza Strip just the next day of October 7th. And Israel has this kind of power. Israel is a nuclear power. So instead of using mass destruction weapon, Israel has been trying to dismantle Hamas and remove them from power, bring the hostages back to their families, and trying to minimize the civilian casualty, while Hamas has been trying to maximize the civilian casualties in an attempt to delegitimize Israel globally and get sympathy from the horrific pictures that we all have seen on the social media. And they did not stop there. They also exaggerated. They lied about the statistics of the collateral damage of such war. And the humanitarian organizations believed them and spread their propaganda. So they became just basically part of the Hamas propaganda machine. The ICJ and the ICC the United Nations, up to this point, failed to condemn Hamas use of human shields. How could this be even possible? They have been condemning Israel non-stop. Okay, so we say, if at least you're condemning Israel, Israel is going through a very difficult war that they haven't started. Understandable. Okay, they had no choice. It's an ugly war. So you condemn Israel. But what about Hamas, who started the war, who committed genocide on October 7th, who took hostages, and who, most importantly, used their own children and their own people as a governing authority as human shields? And Hamas gets away with their crime, and now Israel is condemned with genocide. So this is the inverted narrative. And of course, I personally don't blame many Americans for being outraged. You know, this is actually what you expect from a civilized society to say, you know, enough is enough, cease fire now. But then we say, if we cease fire now, but how Hamas is going to come back 1 year from now, and they're going to be 1,000 times stronger, and they're going to try again to do what they did on October 7th. So how this cycle of violence will ever end if we don't, first of all, remove such savages? And we saw what they did on October 7th, and we saw what they did just recently by executing defenseless hostages. One of them weighed 36 kilos. That's like skin on bone. 20 meters under the ground in the darkness. And we have about 100 more hostages in a similar situation. It's barbaric what they did on October 7th. It's barbaric what they are still doing to their own people. They are reckless. And any person who just say cease fire now, it's like, you know, sweeping the dirt under the rug, and or like hiding the head in the sand, and they just want to cease fire now. We all want to cease fire now. There was ceasefire on October 6th. Nobody wants the war. None in Israel wants the war. But do we have a choice right now? And I include myself, because I don't want these savages to keep repeating this crime. And remember, October 7 was not the first war that Hamas launched against Israel just out of the blue. Whenever they run out of money and they now want to raise billions of dollars, they decide to sacrifice civilians. It's a religious practice. Now, we can talk about all the political things and the values of the West and what you call it, it could have been done differently. Of course, even if Israel today learned the lesson, they could have done it differently. But this is a very ugly war. It's an unfortunate situation, and we need to be realistic. And we must think about tomorrow. Can we live with such savages and barbaric society?
Yeah, yeah. No, I've thought long and hard about this. It's a horrible situation. I'm grateful to not be in Israel trying to make these decisions